Today we're tackling the top 10 geography mistakes people make all the time. These slip-ups come from how school maps simplify the world, how language gets used casually, and how certain myths just won't die. Stick around to the end for the most common mistake of all and a quick trick to make sure you never mix it up again. Number 10. Central American countries are in South America. Many people lump Central America into South America because the names sound similar and the region is Spanish-speaking like much of the South. But geographically, Central America is part of North America. It forms the land bridge between Mexico and the South American continent and includes Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Panama. South America begins at Colombia. Everything north of the Colombia-Panama border is still North America. A helpful way to remember is that the North American tectonic and cultural transitions run through this narrow isthmus. Treating Central America as South America erases distinctions in history, ecosystems, and trade. Next time you're scanning a map, trace the mountains from Mexico through the isthmus. You're still on the North American continent the whole way. Number 9. Sydney is the capital of Australia. Sydney is Australia's most famous and most populous city, which is why many people assume it's the capital. The actual capital is Canberra, a planned city selected in the early 1900s as a compromise between rivals Sydney and Melbourne. Canberra was designed specifically to house national institutions like Parliament House, the High Court, and key government departments, which is why it feels more orderly and ceremonial than the bustling coastal metros. If you ever forget, picture a triangle, Sydney and Melbourne on the coast with Canberra inland between them. Canberra's role is political, while Sydney is the global icon for landmarks, finance, and tourism. So yes, you'll fly to Sydney for the Opera House and beaches, but the laws of the land are debated and passed in Canberra. Biggest city does not always mean capital city. Number 8. Moscow is in Asia. Russia spans 2 continents, which makes this mistake easy to make. The traditional boundary between Europe and Asia runs along the Ural Mountains and the Ural River, then the Caucasus. Moscow sits well west of that line, squarely in the European portion of Russia. This matters because it explains a lot about Russia's history and culture. Moscow's architecture, politics, and trade networks grew in conversation with European capitals. When people call Moscow an Asian city, they're usually thinking of Russia's vast eastern territories that stretch to the Pacific, including Siberia and the Far East. A simple memory trick is to visualize Russia's 2 halves: European Russia with dense cities like Moscow and St. Petersburg, and Asian Russia with enormous distances, taiga forests, and sparsely populated frontiers. Number 7. Holland is a country. Holland is not the country's name. It's the name of 2 provinces, North Holland and South Holland, inside the Netherlands. Because major cities like Amsterdam, Rotterdam, and The Hague are located there, the term Holland became common shorthand. The country's proper name is the Netherlands, which includes 12 provinces in total. Using the correct term acknowledges regions like Friesland, Gelderland, and Limburg that contribute their own dialects and traditions. If you need an easy way to remember it, think of Holland the way you think of California within the United States: important, famous, influential, but not the whole country. When you're labeling maps, describing travel plans, or cheering at a football match, Netherlands is the accurate national name, and Holland is just one part of it. Number 6. America is a country. In casual conversation, America almost always means the United States. Geographically, though, the Americas are 2 vast continents, North America and South America, containing dozens of countries from Canada to Brazil. The shorthand isn't inherently wrong in everyday speech, but it can blur the lines when you're discussing geography, history, or culture. For example, American cuisine usually refers to U.S. foods, but foods of the Americas include crops like maize, potatoes, tomatoes, and cacao. To keep it straight, remember this: the United States is a country. The Americas are a region of 2 continents. When you mean the country, say United States. When you mean the entire landmass, say the Americas. Clear language leads to clearer thinking. America as slang works, but geographically, it's much larger than just one nation. Number 5. Deserts are always hot. Deserts are defined by aridity, not temperature. They receive very little precipitation, typically under 250 millimeters per year, regardless of whether they're blisteringly hot or bitterly cold. The Sahara is the world's largest hot desert and matches the mental picture of dunes and mirages. But Antarctica is actually the largest desert overall because it's extremely dry, locked in ice that rarely melts or turns into rainfall. The Gobi Desert in Asia can plunge well below freezing in winter, and parts of the Atacama in Chile have gone years without measurable rain. The misconception comes from movies and media, but deserts can be sandy, rocky, icy, or even salt flats. If the air is dry and rain is rare, it's a desert, even if you need a parka. Number 4. England and the United Kingdom are the same. England is one of 4 countries that make up the United Kingdom. The others are Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. The UK is a sovereign state that handles defense and foreign policy for all 4. Each country still has its own distinct identity, education systems, and cultural traditions. London is both the capital of England and of the UK, which is part of why people mix the two up. Sports highlight the difference. In football, you'll see separate national teams for England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. For a simple mental model, think of the UK as the political umbrella and the 4 countries as its distinct components. Calling the UK England overlooks the history and pride of the others. Number 3. Toronto is the capital of Canada. Toronto is Canada's largest city and financial powerhouse, so it often gets mistaken for the capital. The true capital is Ottawa, also in Ontario, chosen in the 19th century as a compromise between English and French Canada. Ottawa was picked partly for its defensible location along the Ottawa River, and partly because it sits between Toronto and Montreal. Today it hosts Parliament, the Prime Minister's offices, and many national institutions. Toronto still plays an outsized role in culture, business, and sports. Think film festivals, major banks, and iconic teams. But Ottawa is where laws are debated, and national policy is made. If you need a memory trick, think of the corridor linking Toronto, Ottawa, and Montreal. Ottawa is the middle ground politically and geographically. Number 2. Greenland is as big as Africa. Maps often use the Mercator projection, which preserves directions but distorts land size near the poles. That's why Greenland looks enormous, sometimes even bigger than Africa on school maps. In reality, Africa is about 14 times larger. Africa covers more than 30 million square kilometers and spans deserts, rainforests, and coastlines, while Greenland is only about 2.1 million square kilometers. The Mercator projection was designed for sailors, not for teaching geography. It's great for navigation, but terrible for comparing the true size of continents. If you want accuracy, check out equal area maps like Gallpeters or use online true size tools. Africa absolutely dwarfs Greenland in real life. Number 1. Africa is a country. The most common mistake of all is treating Africa as one country. Africa is a continent made up of 54 independent nations and home to more than 1 billion people. It contains enormous diversity, from Egypt's pyramids and Morocco's mountains to Nigeria's megacities, Kenya's savannas, and South Africa's coastline. Africa also spans hundreds of languages and cultures: Arabic, Swahili, Zulu, Hausa, Yoruba, French, English, and many more. Its economies range from mining to technology hubs like Lagos and Nairobi. Calling Africa a country erases all that richness. A better habit is to name the specific country or region you mean: North, West, East, Central, or Southern Africa. Thanks for watching. Which of these geography mistakes have you heard the most? Did you ever believe one of them yourself? Drop your answer in the comments. If you learned something new, don't forget to like and follow for more content.